Wow, the news ended fast. We were talking. And I've got Jeff Quillin in the studio. And what are you doing here?
Hey, no, what are you doing?
Don't listen.
Get on this side over here.
You let me know if they take you to Waffle House.
We were probably going right after the
I
show.
knew it. I knew it.
Hey, they may take us. That don't mean we're gonna get in there.
Well, he got connections apparently.
Oh, well.
Oh, my gosh. Hey, close that door for us.
Yes, ma'am.
And get out of here.
Good to see you too.
See you, man. Keith Durham's in the house. And, of course, my guest today for Friends and Neighbors is both guys, but specifically Jeff Quillin. I asked him to come in. We've gotten to know each other a little better in the last couple of months or more.
Yeah.
Known you for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But you have been quite an accomplished musician, but I found out a lot more about you. Just that in recent days and weeks. And I took Daniel down there. Of course, he's kind of an aspiring musician, and you've kind of helping him along a little bit. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it. Well, scoot up to the mic just a little bit because I want to ask you. I want to go back a ways. This is one of the things we do, Keith. And Keith, you feel free to chime in and talk with us. I want this kind of be a three-way thing. But you were born and raised in Loretta?
Actually, I was born at Fort Hood, Virginia. My
Really?
my dad is originally from St. Joe, my mother's from Loretta.
Okay.
But he was stationed at Fort Hood when I was born.
Oh, okay.
My
Okay.
mother was a cosmetology instructor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I don't know, I've got a pretty vast array of lineage, I guess.
So your connections are Loretto?
Oh,
and St.
well,
Joe.
basically my family is from Loretta.
Okay.
St. Joe, Loretta area. It's just I happened to be out of town the day I was born.
Oh, okay. and your dad, who was your dad?
Eugene Quillin.
Eugene
They call
Quillin.
him Crappie Leg. He's still with us. He lives in Athens, Alabama.
Okay.
Funny thing is he and Ronnie Allen went to school together.
Oh, really?
And played music together.
Oh, wow.
So my dad and Ronnie go way back.
So your dad's a musician as well?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He can't play anymore, but yeah, I want to say that I got my musical abilities from him.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, good deal. Good deal. That's good. That's interesting. So, but you grew up, I guess, in Loretta for the most part.
Yeah, pretty much. When I was young, we wound up living in Huntsville for a while, but for the most part, from probably the first grade on, I went to Liberty Grove Elementary School to about the 7th grade, and then transferred to Loretta, and then went to Loretta High School. So yeah, I've pretty much been in Loretta
Okay.
the bulk of my life anyway.
Yeah. A great place to be.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Is that Liberty Grove School still there?
No, they tore it down several years ago. I don't know. It was, there was a time when the elementary school, the small elementary schools, they started
Closing down.
shutting them down and moving, conglomerating them or combining them.
I miss a lot of those community
So
schools.
yeah, Liberty Grove was one of them, and 5 Points. Boy, my allergies is kicking in this morning.
Oh, my
I'm
goodness.
sorry.
He's allergic to Keith.
Yeah. Well, I do have cats and dogs.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, I've got bunches of dogs, but it's just anyway.
Well, you started out life in Loretta, graduated Loretta High School. What year did you graduate?
81.
81.
Yeah.
So you're a little. Well, I graduated 79, so you're a little younger than me. But you started playing music early though, didn't you?
Yeah. Do you know Daryl Glover?
Daryl Glover.
Daryl's been a lifelong, several years into my life. And Daryl told me one time that I was born a generation late, that I had the soul of somebody 10 years older than me. And it kind of makes sense, my taste in music, and I guess my approach to life, and first one thing another, it fits more, people that are older than me. So even, I think I was telling you the other day, even when I was a freshman in high school, I was hanging out with people 8 and 9 years older than me playing music. So when I was a freshman in high school, I was already playing in a band.
Yeah.
Because I was affiliated with people that were already playing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So that part of it is good. Now, the one thing that I've told Braze Quillin hangs around with us,
Yeah.
and he has for several years. And the one thing that I stress to him is that, come hang out with us old guys, you'll learn how to not do things. So sometimes knowledge is on the flip side.
Sure.
You learn everything, but you watch what I do, but don't do what I do.
Yeah.
So
You said you play a variety of instruments, though, do you not?
well, mainly guitar.
Yeah.
I played guitar and sang more than ever anything else. Now, from a aspect of owning a studio and making it easier,
Yeah.
I own drums.
Yeah.
I can smack on them, but I couldn't go play a show.
Sure.
I have a bass and I can play bass if needed.
Yeah.
I have keyboards and I can make chords, but I don't want to get in front of people and play.
Yeah.
But a guitar is basically my main instrument.
Well, you're quite good at that. I've really, watched you many years in bands. Now you've had how many bands? Let's go back. Let's go back to band beginnings.
Golly, bum. I don't know how you would even start counting. And the odd thing is with bands, you start with a band and then somebody quits. Well, you think you need to rename the band. So if you start looking at band names, then they really start tallying up. But it's to name how many bands I was in. I don't think I could even start.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, you've also been, by doing that though, you've got acquainted with a lot of local musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of folks that and I don't think they'd mind you telling your association with you played with this and that and the other. And along the way, you learn from each other, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You learn a lot of life lessons by being in a band, because a band it's more than being married. It's more like a fraternity, because you're in some ways you're closer than brothers.
Yeah.
Because being a brother, you have to put up with the other guy.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be nice to him.
Yeah.
But being in a band, you kind of got to keep a little bit of edge. That okay, I'm open to the way he thinks, even though I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of personality conflicts.
A lot of give and take.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you got to do to tolerate the other guy because you love him and you need him. You need. So I mean, it goes back to I think I was talking earlier about, even though I feel like I'm 10 years older in my musical traits, I try to be open. Age is not a problem.
Sure.
And folks like Curtis Hall, John Ezel, all those guys, they're several years, well, not several, but years younger than me.
Yeah.
But in association, we've always been there for one another. We don't necessarily play music all the time together, but any chance we get, we do.
Sure. Sure. You've had quite a successful. Now I want to ask you about something else though, because Keith may not be aware of this. You had a career that wasn't music related. You had a job.
Right. Well, to put things in perspective, when I was in elementary school, I had a grit newspaper route. People don't know what grit newspapers are much anymore. But I sold grit newspapers. I worked as a car hop at Boss's Dairy Bar in Loretta.
Okay.
I wound up working at J.C. Peters' Pete's Country Meat Market when I was in high school, after school, cleaning up and then working on Saturdays. Then I got into more electricity and electronics at vocational school up here with Byron Yoakum, which led me in. Well, I've got a theory that musicians, even though I'm not great at math, I think musicians have to lean more toward math, and for some reason electricity becomes part of the whole thing. So you wind up being electrically inclined because you have to hook up all this stuff.
And sound.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta kind of have an ear and a thought for music.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it folds into something else. So, with all of that, I wound up, of course, doing all the hooking up and all this sort of stuff with electricity and electronics. But I wound up, not long after I'd been married, I worked in tool and die for a while, just as a machinist, but never was schooled at it. But I wound up working for 2 years in cable TV in Loretta. Wound up going to work for the Passarellas at the Loretta Telephone Company for 5 years, doing business telephone systems.
Yeah.
I went all over the country putting in the phone systems and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Or all over, from Nashville down to Coleman, Alabama,
Okay.
working on business telephone systems.
Sure.
Then I wound up getting on in Muscle Shoals at TVA as a contractor in telecommunications, working in networking and fiber optics and copper and all that sort of
Well,
stuff.
see, you're talking in Keith's world
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of things, and we started the same place. I had Byron Yoakum also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some.
So y'all can talk about that, and I'm a little lost when it comes to all that.
Well, let me. I got some Byron Yoakum stories I could tell, but this is his show. But Byron used to make us clean up the shop. I had him in the afternoon, and we had to clean up shop, and so we didn't want to clean up shop. So every day we'd move the ceiling tile back, and we'd throw a broom up in that ceiling and move the ceiling tile back. Well, it wasn't too long, we was out of brooms and mops because they were all up there. Fast forward 25 years, and when I was mayor, I went back to speak to the entrepreneur class that was, they redone the vocational school up there.
Yeah.
So they've taken the ceilings out. There's no more false ceilings. You can, you can see the roof there.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Weathers was there, and I said, "Hey, when y'all took that ceiling out, did y'all find a bunch of mops and stuff over there?" He goes, "Was that you guys?" So that, they were still up there years later.
That's funny.
But anyway.
I remember Byron Yoakum. I took the graphic arts class, which
Yeah.
was across the hall from his class, and that was where I was in the vocational school. So, good deal, good deal. So you got a position with TVA or contracting with TVA?
Yeah, I worked 10 years as a contractor, and then I think at some point, regime changes and management and first one thing and another, they realized that basically the way it works is TVA pays a contractor for services, but they also have to pay certain amounts over. I mean, they don't just pay my wages, they have to pay the contractor for their administrative and everything else.
Sure.
So what it comes down to, and I was a union electrician, but figured as a telecommunications electrician. So I got union wages.
Sure.
So TVA was paying that union wage on top of the administrative and the truck rental and everything else. So I think they finally figured out, after us nudging management, hey, look at your numbers. They finally figured out that, well, we're still paying this guy the same amount of money per hour.
Yeah.
So why don't we hire him on?
Yeah.
So we're paying him the same amount, other than insurance and stuff like that. Nothing really changed.
Yeah.
So for 21 years after that 10 years, I worked same job, but I was a TVA employee, and I retired September 30th.
Wow. A recent retirement.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I'm still getting used to freedom.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, how did you work in doing you've always been playing music and playing in a band, holding down a full-time job. How'd you squeeze all that in?
Well, luckily, several years ago, another aspect of labor is they figured out that instead of paying, there again, a union electrician overtime, because we were traveling to Memphis and Gunnersville and first one thing and another. Of course, it's 3.5 hours to Memphis, depending on where you're going. So you'd leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and you wouldn't get back till 6 or 7 o'clock at night to get all your work done. So they finally figured out that, hey, if we put these guys on 410s, just work Monday through Thursday, then we're paying them the same 40 hours straight time instead of having to pay overtime.
Okay.
4 days a week. So that gave me Fridays off.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
that freed up a lot of time for me to be able to do weekend work.
Okay.
Now that chewed into my evening work. That it was 4:30 getting off instead of 3. Well, yeah, we were going in at 6 and getting off at 4:30 as opposed to going in at 7 and getting off at 3:30.
Okay.
So went in a little earlier, but it doesn't matter really about that. But it's just the whole, and that's what you was talking about the other day about maybe having knowledge about a lot of stuff.
Sure.
It's because I've run into this. I kind of understand how labor works because I've been there.
Yeah.
I understand how electricity works because I've been there. I understand how music works because I've had to do it because either nobody else could or I just didn't need to depend on somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
I try to be as independent as I can about stuff.
Well, I've had the privilege of Daniel and I have been at your studio a couple of times, and you've been kind enough to take a lot of time with us. And Daniel, I was blown away at your studio. I've never seen so much stuff, electronic equipment, guitars, wires.
And I've got stuff.
You got stuff.
I got stuff. Yeah, I think George Carlin had a skit about stuff.
That's right. It's a place for my stuff. But not only that, you know how to use it all.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and I'm just fascinated by that because that didn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't. And the thing is I was brought up, or I learned from an analog world. I was used to turning knobs and, I turned it too far, or I need to do this, or what do I got to do this? Well, then when the digital world came around, I had to accept that that's what was going to happen in order for me to continue. So now then, instead of tweaking a knob, you got to move a mouse, or so it's a little bit different world, but still you got to use your ears.
Yeah.
You got to use your mind. You got to use your ears. Your fingers don't do as much as they did.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff, like our PA now, just like my mixing board in the studio is a digital board. Physically it's there, but like with the sound, the PA situation, everything's pretty much virtual. It's a box that you physically connect to, but then you've got an app basically that puts that physicality on a screen that you tweak and you move. The great thing is if we go and play, let's say we went back here and played at the Country Cafe.
Yeah.
And it took time to get the acoustics right and the drums sounding right and everything leveled out. And we got a great show. You hit save. So the next time you come back to that venue, you start there. All this hitting a snare drum 400 times and driving people crazy, that's gone away.
That's amazing.
So the whole idea of being a technician has turned from knowing which knob to turn when to knowing which thing you saved.
Yeah, I've learned a couple of things, Keith, visiting with him the last little bit, me and Dan. I was fascinated in the studio there with him. He's got this huge screen with all of his the digitized soundboard basically. And you remember, if you ever seen pictures, I guess, and we all have, of those recording studios of old, where they have like 1 million buttons, and 1 million knobs and all that kind of stuff. That's what he's talking about. It's reduced down now to an app and a software deal. But what I found fascinating is he's got a mixing board over here, and he's got his mixing board in front of him digitally. And if he hits a button, those buttons on the mixing board they move all by themselves. It's in. I'm like, well, that's magic.
It was good to learn on an analog board. I learned on an analog board because you know what that row of buttons corresponds to that channel and that slider. And now you may have just one row of buttons, and you have to select which channel you want those buttons to control. And it's hard. It would be hard for me to grasp that concept. I would think it would be easier for somebody to learn on analog, saying, okay, this row right, you have 1 million buttons. This row right here is just for this one channel, period.
Right.
And you can make assignments to that channel or whatever you want to do, but now it takes a minute. Like when something was feeding back, you used to could hear it and then look up, and whatever was clipping, you could reach that channel. But now you got to watch a graph. And then you got to figure out in your mind, okay, I got to switch to whichever layer that's on. If you're not on that
Right.
layer, it takes you a minute to find that.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have anti-feedback stuff built into it, but it don't always work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you know, a way of putting this into layman's terms, the 1K frequency, that's kind of you know, it's the old telephone
Yeah.
nasal sound.
Yeah.
Well, used to, if you looked at a channel strip, you had knobs, highs, high mids, you know, 2 or 3 channel, and some of them were graduated into the actual frequency, and it would say 1K, 3K,
That's right.
4K. So if you heard something and it sounded nasally, you could look and see, well, that thing said it, you know, 1.5K, I need to turn that back. Now then, if you hear that, you've got to think, okay, which menu do I go into to find that equalizer? And then you can look at the graph, well, yeah, that's high. You also can hit a button that'll do a spectrum analyzer, and if something's feeding back, you get a red line, which frequency it is, so you can just dial that thing back. So it's so much easier if you know how to get there.
Yeah.
So you know, you got the old roll with the punches type thing. That's what I've had to do, because I started with an old PV board that had a knob that big, you turn, you know, and then it only had highs and lows, and you know, so it's been a fun journey.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm working with lights now that are, you know, the lights are addressed. Each light has its own address, and it folds back into, instead of having a big lighting board that looks like a mixing board that you turn up and down, you set your lights to whatever color you need them. They're LED, they don't draw as much power. So a stage lighting system, I helped them over to Crockett Theater here a while back on a couple of shows that they did, because their theater lighting for plays didn't line up with what you needed for a musical rock show or country show, where they're used to having different color lights coming from different angles. Most of the production stuff for a play is white lights in different areas of the stage.
Right.
So I was able to take my MacBook that had this program in, and Elizabeth, I think's the name, that's over the lighting there.
Okay.
She got me the addresses, so I put them into my software and could go in. If they weren't there with their console, I could plug in and run the lights with my board. So the whole idea of learning the digital aspect of sound rolls into lighting also.
Wow, that's
So let me ask you something. With the digital board that I'm used to, I use a little Behringer X32, but the effects are way easier than they were on analog. You used to have external effects and feedback circuits, and that thing would feedback on you in 2 seconds.
Oh,
But, do you guys use vocal effects more now that you've got a digital board, or do you use
Honestly, and I've got an M32, which is basically it's the same. Midas has been around for years.
Yep.
Behringer bought out Midas, so they basically copied what they could with the Midas board and made a more feasible board. But yeah, they're basically the same. Honestly, and this is something that Jeff and I have talked about getting Daniel started doing. We currently do not have a sound guy that travels with us. So by not having somebody out front to be able to real time hear and control stuff like that, we don't even use effects.
I got you.
Mainly because a lot of the venues we play, of course, you know, it's like you play at the Crockett Theater. You're going to have a reverb, natural reverb.
That's right. You can hear yourself.
Right. So we don't use any effects.
Gotcha.
Now my guitar, I've got effects built into my guitar pedal board. But you're right. Everything about the digital world, because used to, for every type of effect, you had to have a rack mount unit. And you had to have cables plugged into that unit, plugged into the back of the board. Well, you got a cable bad.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend 30 minutes trying to figure out why that reverb's
Exactly.
not working, where that noise is coming from. So you've eliminated all the copper connections. I was telling you
Yeah.
the other day, you know,
Yeah.
if I ever decide to get out of the music business, I think I could probably make a little bit of money just selling the copper off that I've got. So,
Yeah.
and it
You don't
goes-
have that big snake anymore.
you don't have the snake, and that's a
Now,
cool
now
thing.
explain to people who don't know what the snake is.
Okay,
Oh, that's
the
I mean,
snake.
You
and-
got to explain
and
what the
this-
snake is.
This is more so for people that used. Well, I mean, they still do this, but in the early days, you had a stage box that was a massive box, and for all practical purposes, let's say you had 32 channel, a box that had 32 places to plug a microphone into.
Yes.
Then you had 6, 8, 12 sends that came from the board. What it did is it sent those, it's like bundling 32 mic cables together.
Okay.
So you had a hard box that you plugged the microphones into that went, in some cases, 150,
Yeah.
200 feet to the middle of the venue where the guy would set up back there with a mixing board so he could hear.
And if you've
what
ever
the-
been to a concert anywhere, you may see a big
Exactly.
sound, what I always call the sound guy,
The sound guy.
that's out in the middle of the arena or whatever, in front of the stage.
Well, before digital boards, you had a bundle of cables, in some cases 1 inch to 2 inches around, that physically had to connect everything on stage to that guy sitting at the back. Now then, you use an Ethernet cable. You've still got a box that everything plugs into, but it digitally changes it from that analog signal to a digital signal
Yeah.
and converts it into a single Ethernet cable that they just run one cable, and in some cases it's wireless, but I think for most productions they want a hard connection.
Yeah.
But it's still, you got a guy at the back of the house, and the snake was that bundle of mic cables that connected everything on stage to that
Two
guy.
people carry it sometimes.
Yeah, those things were massive. So I wound up selling my snake a few years ago because I just didn't need it
Got a
anymore.
lot
Yeah.
of copper in it.
The cool thing about digital, in most cases with bands like myself, you don't need a snake because that app works virtually with an iPad. So now then you go out front, instead of having a console sitting there, you have an iPad or a laptop that's got that app on it that you see everything on it that you would on the computer in my studio.
Sure.
And you know, I got a 42-inch screen because I don't have to wear my glasses when I'm mixing. I can see all this stuff and I can zoom in and, you know, I can detail it. I don't have a touch screen, but still it's, you know, it's big enough that I can look. And when you're looking at waveforms to edit, then you can spread them out and you can see, oh, there's where that glitch is, or there's, you know, you can cut and paste, and
It's
and
incredible, really.
It's
Yeah.
just crazy what you can do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Steve Melton, I'm appreciative that Steve is a friend of mine, but Steve is a retired engineer in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
And he worked on Bob Seger albums, he worked on Bob Dylan albums, Etta James. It's unreal. You know, all those Muscle Shoals guys. I was telling you the other day, you can walk in McDonald's and see David Hood, and he played bass on
Yeah.
everything that went through Muscle Shoals for years.
Right,
But they're
right.
just the average people, you know. But Steve and I were talking, and we went to a thing the other day down at Muscle Shoals that he was talking. And he was talking about the difference in analog and digital. You know, so it was pretty freaky to talk to somebody that made his living twisting knobs, and how now then everything is digital.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that he said that was just crazy, I don't know how, but used to, and here again, I learned this from the radio world, even though I've never worked at a radio station, as being a musician and dealing with songwriting and publishers.
Sure.
A band will come in and record a song, and they're like, yeah, that's it, that's the way we want. Well, a song comes in at 4 minutes. The record company says, no, we got to cut it to 3.5 because radio won't play it that long. They want more songs. You know, they won't be able to play more songs in a span, or they want to be able to put enough advertising in there.
Sure.
So if we cut 30 minutes out of every song we play, then that's another 30-minute ad we can play.
Yeah.
Well, in the old days, you had a 2-inch wide tape, and this is the tape that went around and around
Sure.
and recorded.
Yeah.
And in order to cut out time, let's say that the song had an intro lead, and then it had a verse and a chorus, and then it had another lead, they would cut out one of those leads. That's why some album cuts, the songs are longer, and they've got an extra verse in it, and first one thing another, where the radio cut is
That's right.
shorter, and there's things that you don't hear in a radio cut. The way that they physically had to do that was take the tape on the machine, and you had a group of heads that the tape would turn from left to right and pull that tape across that head, and that would play it. It also would record it, but they would get to a part where it needed to be cut, and now this is going from real world to digital. The cut and paste,
Yeah.
well, it's still the same thing. You're cutting. They would take the tape, and when they would get to where the guy said, and they said, okay, well, we need to take that out. So they would rock the tape back and forth and find where the guys are just minute seconds before he would say and they would put a grease mark on the back of the tape where it didn't rub across the head. Then they would spin it until it got to the end of that part. They would rock it back again, put a grease mark on it. Take the tape off, take a razor blade and cut the tape. Take that piece of tape out, cut it again, then put those pieces of tape together and tape them.
Yeah.
And that would physically edit out
Yeah.
a section of song. Well,
seconds
now
of the
then
song.
you highlight it,
Yeah.
you cut it, and I've done it before, like take the ending of one version of a take that the band recorded. Little John Marston, we was recording some stuff, and he loved this particular take, but he didn't like the way he ended it. Well, the next take, everything was great, but his snare head broke. Well, then the next take, he didn't really like the way the song went, but he really liked the way he ended it.
Yeah.
So I was able to highlight all the tracks, copy that, go back to the other take. Now this is in Pro Tools and it's digital.
Sure.
Find that minute section, paste it in there, and it's the same idea as the old school guys taking that 2-inch tape and physically cutting the tape. Peter Yarrow, I think was his name, is Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had recorded with Steve engineering in Muscle Shoals Sound. They had, and I can't remember, I don't know. I don't think that, they still use 2-inch tape, but a roll of 2-inch tape was, it's probably 15 to 18 inches. And that stuff would run at 30 inches per second. That's why you didn't get a lot of tape noise, because it was moving so fast.
Wow.
But he used 28 rolls of tape to record an album. And it's like, that stuff was like $200 a roll in the 70s. So, and for 10 songs, 28 rolls.
Yeah.
He then went through, and part of the engineer's job, other than just making it sound right, and to get stuff hooked up, and the distance of a microphone from a snare drum, how it sounds different. I mean, the proximity of a microphone, I can be right here and I sound like this, or I can be back here, and it's just, the microphone's not changing, my voice is not changing, but the way the pickup pattern works. So it's the same with instruments, different mic placement on an acoustic guitar, it's going to sound different. On a drum, it sounds different. So that's the engineering part of the audio world.
You bring up a good point right there. To be a good sound engineer, you got to have good ear.
Yeah.
The good ear for your music, and you got to know the song, because there's places in songs that a sound engineer can enhance or bring down. So when you're doing live sound, hey, the band's supposed to get loud right here. And so you've got the ability to pull it down just a tad, just to keep it in check. So
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
you got to have a good ear.
But the thing about the Peter Yarrow thing, I mean, I am nowhere knowledgeable about Muscle Shoals than some people are. I pride myself in trying to know, but I can't. I've not even scratched the surface. A lot of those guys are friends of mine, and a lot of them have told me stories that I've heard and I've read. You know, first one thing, another. But Peter Yarrow, and this gets back to the engineer's job, they had to document, track physical writing on paper, what songs were at what time on which roll of tape.
Sure.
And which take. So with Peter Yarrow, what would wind up happening is he would go back and say, oh, my allergies are kicking in. He would say, well, I liked the intro and the verse of this song on tape 4 at 17 minutes into the tape.
Wow.
But I liked the chorus we did on this other one that was on a different roll of tape, different spot in the tape. So Steve had to find those tapes, and a lot of times what they'd do, they would make copies.
Yeah.
So there again, if you had 28 rolls of tape and you were going to edit out 3 rolls of those, you had to physically put that roll of tape on a machine and copy in real time that roll of tape to another machine over here, so you've got a safety. That way you don't cut up one and go, God, I messed that up. We got to recut it, you know.
So it's almost like making a movie then, you know,
Oh,
like
it is.
you can't just walk in the studio. I guess it's tough just to walk in the studio and do it in one take.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you just,
yeah.
so you have to do them over and over again.
And oddly enough, we have a tradition if we're recording to try to do 3 takes of something.
Okay.
And try to get it in 3 takes. Now, if it doesn't work, if somebody's having a problem with it, the main thing is getting the drummer. Now, used to, you know, they would record everything real time. You know, the Beatles recorded on 4 tracks and everything was live.
Yeah.
So if somebody messed up, you had to go back and record it again.
Wow.
You didn't have the luxury of Pro Tools. You know, Joe Walsh made mention one time about Hotel California. If that had Pro Tools in Hotel California, they would have never finished the album because there's so much stuff you could do. You could record it again, and you didn't worry about how much tape cost and how much it was going to do this.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of stuff that you know.
It's endless.
It is endless.
It's endless.
And to learn what the guys used to do and to know that how that applies in the digital world makes more sense.
Yeah.
You know, the cut and the paste, you know, this is so much easier. And it's, you can back it up. You know, if it doesn't fit, you just, you know, hit back and you go back and you do it again.
Well, I don't know if I can guess the answer to this with you, but I'm listening to you, and it's fascinating because I've got to see you work in the studio a little bit. I've also got to see you play and perform. What do you enjoy the most?
That's a hard, you know.
What do you enjoy the most?
People
Because I
look
can tell you love the production part.
Well, and people look at me funny sometimes. There's an old saying in the band world about, you know, when you tell somebody what you're going to charge, you know, and you hear their neck snap, but really? And we tell them, says, well, you don't pay us to play. We do that for free.
Yeah.
You pay us for the time it takes to set up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but then I wind up responding, but a lot of times I enjoy the pre-production stuff. You know, I enjoy hooking to my trailer, and I enjoy riding 2-3 hours with the guys in the bus. I've got
Yeah.
a Yukon, 7-seater
about the trip.
Yukon.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
trip.
and everybody piles in the bus, and we all, you know, go, you know, I pick up a guy in Loretta, pick up a guy in either Lawrenceburg or Summertown, and then a guy from Fayetteville might meet me over here at a church, and so we all load up and we go north. We hit 65, and we're driving 2.5-3 hours. We'll stop for a bathroom break or go through somewhere to get something to eat. So you got a 3-hour drive to get wherever you're going. then it takes you an hour, hour and a half to unload and set up. A little time to do a sound check, then you gotta wait a little while, then you play, then you tear down and you make that reverse trek. But I enjoy, and this is what people look at me crazy, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I enjoy driving to the gig and getting there and unloading the trailer. And if nothing is broke when you're setting up, I just enjoy plugging up that stuff. I've got my stuff to where it's as tight as I can get it. Everything's labeled. It's if Daniel went with me today, all I'd have to do is say match the numbers, plug these numbers where those numbers are, and you can do that.
Yeah.
When my son Nick was 3 years old, I would take him to band gigs.
Yeah.
And he was wanting to be right under my coattail, so to speak, all the time. And I'd tell him, Nick, put number one in number one.
Yeah.
And
there we go.
At 3 years old, he was helping me connect stuff because I had it to where a kid could do it.
Yeah.
If something's not right, I make a note, and the next time I have that, I'm back to where I can unload, I fix it.
So let me ask you something. So, if you're an architect or an engineer, you pretty much have a day job. And I was intrigued by your day job. You work for TVA during the day, but, to be a musician and to be successful most of the time.
Right.
I'm looking at your schedule. You made it when you can Google somebody and they come up, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got a pretty tight schedule for the next 2 or 3 months here.
Well, the thing is probably what I've posted is just for the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, right.
And this is the great thing about being retired. But I go back and I look at how did I do this when I had a 40-hour week, and it's 40-hour plus because sometimes you drive to Memphis and you're going to spend the night and. That just backs up my personal life. I don't want to go spend a night in Memphis. I got stuff I need to do at home.
Right.
But what I've got on my agenda right now is I'm working with actually 3 different artists, bands, however you want to look at it, in the studio. Nuke Bushner. Nuke is from Kansas. He still lives in Kansas, but he was, I think, a 2015 finalist on American Idol.
Okay.
I'm not sure how he wound up in Loretta, Tennessee, at my studio. I mean, I do, but I don't. My son-in-law, Matthew Huntley, is a songwriter, so he's written songs with Nuke.
Okay.
And those are to be, 2 of them are to be released this month, the 13th, I think.
Okay.
Those songs were written and then brought into the studio, and mostly local guys played the stuff. Little John Marston played drums on it. Steve Vickery from Muscle Shoals played bass. Kevin Gallion played guitar. Jeff Hazard, Jeff's from Mount Pleasant area. He played keyboards. Donnie Carpenter from Muscle Shoals played fiddle. Then we had a couple of different steel players. One, the first guy that played some stuff on it was Joe Diffie's former steel player.
Oh, wow.
The guy that did some other tracks is Aaron Tippin's steel player.
Okay.
Well, Kevin and Little John both play with Aaron Tippin presently.
Yeah.
So, these guys have got a little bit of, they got a little bit under their belt too.
Yeah.
But we were able to start on a Sunday and record 3 songs that day, and then Kevin and I and different people have fleshed those songs out, the whole editing thing, you go through, and when you're recording stuff, you do different takes, and then you go back and you listen, well, that note didn't seem to fit just exactly right, so you can nudge it a little bit. So we've spent since August, really, we started 3 songs in August.
Yeah.
2 of them are going to be released February 13th, Spotify, the whole streaming platform.
Sure.
Now, Nuke has got a lot of followers, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. So we're hoping that that's going to catch fire and run with
Take
it.
hold, yeah.
I've worked with Shelby Lee Lowe for years.
Yeah,
Shelby recorded a live show at the Crockett Theater in November
yeah,
that is on my warmer, that I've got to mix down those songs from that show that he's going to release.
sure.
There's been other concerts that he's done that I've done sound for.
Okay,
So to get back with your schedule, I've got about 3 or 4 fires simmering of artists that I'm recording. Our other things going on in the studio, like trying to figure out how some of my stuff works to where I can show Daniel how it works.
yeah,
I'm trying to get Daniel into the Pro Tools thing because, I mean, he's doing great with what he's got, but I think ultimately to get his next step is to get into the world that he can take his hard drive he did at home and bring to my studio and we work on it. Then he could take it to Muscle Shoals or Nashville or anywhere,
Yeah.
open up those same sessions and continue. You know, he doesn't have a drum set in his basement. I do.
yeah. He has an electronic drum set.
But I mean, to
Yeah,
have a
not-
drummer
not-
come into his
No.
basement and play, he can't do that.
No.
So that's the great thing about portability.
Yeah.
So you got I've got the studio, I've got a sound company that I set up festival size PA and lighting for, run sound. I've got 2 bands, the Jeff Quillin band and Four on the Floor, that I work with on a regular basis. And the schedule you were talking about is what I've posted recently, like through May. Four on the Floor has things that gets booked annually. When we play somewhere, they go ahead and book us for the next
I
year.
got you. No,
So-
this was a Jeff Quillin band I was looking at.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, tell people how to find that, by the way, so they can kind of follow you.
well, the Jeff Quillin Band is on Facebook. I also have a website, jeffquillinband.com. I'm trying to update that website. I've started, posting the actual schedule and things going on. I kind of
Sure.
let it go by the wayside because I just didn't have time.
Sure.
But social media, you can follow me at Jeff Quillin or Jeff Quillin Band.
Yeah.
Or the real Four on the Floor. Now, Four on
The
the
real
Floor,
Four on the Floor is cool.
Four on the Floor has been together since 1987, and they're basically not really a show band, but kind of a show band. I started playing with them in '91 for about 9 years, and then I was missing T-ball games.
Who
and
else
stuff.
in that band?
Well,
Is it a pickup band or?
right now, it's basically the same band as the Jeff Quillin band, but
Okay.
we add Dwight King from Fayetteville. Dwight's been the lead singer
I got you.
for years, and Four on the Floor is more of a, not as much 50s anymore, but 60s and 70s. I call it FM classic rock.
Sure.
Yeah.
FM classic rock's more like,
Stuff that I play.
well,
Some of
it's more stuff like Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
You was playing Pure Prairie League earlier.
Yeah.
We don't do that, but that's in the vein.
Sure.
It's not soft rock, but Temptation Eyes
Yeah.
was a 70s, 72, 73, Pretty Woman, the Roy Orbison / Van
Yeah.
Halen version.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of songs that Four on the Floor plays that Jeff Quillin Band doesn't play.
Yeah.
But from a personnel / convenience, whatever, I've been able to incorporate as the original guys from Four on the Floor had retired or for
Yeah.
one thing or another. I presently have John Ferrante playing bass
Yeah.
and Keith Franklin playing drums. The easiest part is to just have those guys playing both bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way, when I'm working, they're working.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't have to sit at home when I'm out working. At the same time, the complexity of scheduling, you get down and you say, hey, we've got this band plays such and such, such and such, and then this band plays such and such, such and such. So they've got a calendar of everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So the real Four on the Floor, the reason it's the real Four on the Floor is if you just Google Four on the Floor, you're going to find 30 bands across the U.S. called Four on the Floor. And it's everything from bluegrass to heavy metal.
Oh, wow.
There's even a dog grooming site that is Four on the Floor.
Unbelievable.
It sounds like they're my genre, because I listen to The Bridge on Sirius XM, you know, and they've
Yeah.
got a lot of that 70s light rock. And
Well, we've had a lot of different people over the years play in the band, and most recently Joe Widener passed away. Joe had been in the band from the beginning. He played guitar and saxophone and sung backup. But you know, as life goes, things change, and to do what I do, you don't have to have a hull on, but you've got to be able to roll. You know, and in this case, you know, Joe was a dear friend to the whole band, and he's missed. But you know, we've got dates scheduled.
See, to me, the saxophone brings a different element into it.
Oh, it does. It does. And what's really funny is a saxophone. If you just ran somebody out on stage holding one, people perceive the band differently.
Yeah, you're right.
They hear with their eyes.
Yep.
So even though that guy might not play a note on that saxophone, we had a guy one time come up to us in Huntsville and tell the keyboard players that, man, I love the way you played that saxophone.
Yeah.
And it was that he didn't put together that this guy was over here and this guy was over here holding the saxophone.
Yeah.
But the fact that somebody on stage was holding one, he thought it sounded great.
Well, you know, on YouTube, you can look up songs with the greatest saxophone leads in them or whatever.
Yeah.
And there'll be songs that you and I consider some of the greatest songs ever written. They have saxophone in them. They're
Oh
great.
yeah, they are. They are. They are. Jeff, I appreciate you coming in. We don't have a lot of time left, but that hour went by fast. Some fascinating stuff.
Well,
to me,
He's a smart guy.
I'm
no doubt.
I'm blessed to have been involved in a lot of stuff I've stumbled into.
Yeah.
I was telling, I was showing you guys the other day. Now this has been back in, I guess it was early '90s. I saw just a little bitty thing in Times Daily said Skinner fans.
Oh, I love this story.
If you would like to sing on a Leonard Skinner recording, call this number. Of course, I called it because I've been a Skinner fan.
Did you have your credit card out?
Yeah. But it was just a little blog one day in the Times Daily. I called the number. Turns out, and people that knows the story of Leonard Skinner, they had the plane crash.
Sure.
Some of the key members of the band, or the lead singer was killed.
Yeah.
10 years later, they regrouped the band. They toured. So they did a live album. Southern by the Grace of God was the name of the album. And they recorded the tour. They played in Nashville, played in Dallas, all these big cities, and they recorded the entire show. They got ready to put together a live album, and it was like, okay, let's take the best performances of one song from whichever.
Right.
Swamp Music was what came from Nashville because the band performed it the best, and the crowd reacted the best. So that's what we're going to use. Freebird, the best performance of the band was in Dallas, Texas. But at the time, in memorial to Ronnie Van Zant, the lead singer, who had got killed in a plane crash, the band would not sing Freebird. They played it. They put a microphone out on the front of the stage. You put Ronnie's hat on it and killed the lights, and just a single spotlight came down on Ronnie's mic
Yeah.
for Freebird, and the crowd sang it.
Oh, wow.
So I was there, so I know how, bone
felt like,
chilling
yeah.
it was.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, the problem is the Dallas performance was the best performance of the band, but the crowd either didn't sing enough or they didn't get enough crowd recorded. So they brought the album to Muscle Shoals Sound to mix down and put the album together. So what they wound up deciding to do is find 60 Skinner fans. And we had to audition. We had to actually come in and sing in front of some of the Swampers to show that we wasn't just flukes.
Harmonized crowd.
Yeah.
Well, so they decided, okay, we're going to pick these 60. So luckily I was one of 60. One of the worst, I don't think this was before '94, but they had closed the roads And Muscle Shoals Sound, this was when they were down on the river. So you had to go all the way, Sheffield, and go down a hill and get down to the river, and it was iced up, snowed up. And my cousin and myself and a couple other folks made that trek down there that day. Went in Muscle Shoals Sound, and they took 15 people in 4 rows in the big studio floor. Had the big condenser mic set up overhead, had cue cards to where nobody messed up. And several of the Skinnerd band members were there and mingled in with the crowd.
Yeah.
And we sang Freebird. I was on the front row, one of the 15 on the front row, sung Freebird. Okay, front row moved to the back. So they rotated to where 15 people got to sing on the front row every time. So now then you've got 4 takes, 4 stereo takes of 60 people singing. So what,
You can
240?
multiply that.
Yeah, 240 people singing.
Yeah.
Well, then you run it through chorus and a little bit of reverb, and it sounds like 50,000 people. So if you go right now to the Southern by the Grace of God and pull up Freebird, I'm singing Freebird on that 4 times. Now, unless you delve into the album liner notes, there's no indication that I was there.
Yeah.
There's one little blog that said, thanks to our Muscle Shoals Skinnerd fans for your help with this album. And the band sent me a letter that's autographed by all the members, thanking me for coming and participating in the inclement the weather. And I've got a picture.
That's awesome.
I've got a picture of me and Gary Rossington and Ed King. They're signing something. So I mean, I got proof I was there.
That's cool.
Even though the Skinnerd album does not say that Jeff Quillin sang on this, I know
They'd
I
have
was
to
there,
pay you
and that's
then.
all that matters.
Exactly.
Man, this has been great, Jeff. Appreciate you coming in.
I
Appreciate you coming
enjoyed
in.
it, yeah.
We're gonna have to join programming already in progress. Keith, what are you gonna do today, bud?
I've got to go to Florence, Alabama today.
Florence, Alabama. Well, you might take me with you.
There's supposed to be bulldozing down there.
All right. All right.
boy.
More to come. Listen, we'll have you back again, okay?
Okay.
God bless everybody.
That's awesome.
Well, the thing is when I get to talking, I keep thinking, well, I need to talk about that. I need to talk